Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video, and this one is another of these listening practice videos. I think they're really good, and what I really try to do in these listening practice videos is give you stories with really good vocabulary and phrases and especially verbs that you can take and practice on your own. So don't skip this intro, please. I promise that it's not just me rambling for no reason. There's two things that I want you to always do with these listening practice videos. The first one is try to listen to it over and over again until you don't have to, translate in your head as much anymore. You don't have to think about it. You can just hear it and immediately relate what I'm saying to the meaning. You don't have to listen to it, then translate first, and then try to think of the meaning. No, you just hear it and you know what it means because you're fluent in whatever it is that I am saying in this story. So constant repetition. The second thing, which is probably even more important, is that I want you to try to say this stuff out loud yourself until it feels natural. You don't have to think about it as much. You know what you're saying. Again, speak out loud when you're doing this if you're able to, and then take these new verbs and phrases you learn and make them your own. Use different subjects, different tenses, all of that. So, also, I'm going to do this story twice. The first time I'm going to do it just a normal speaking pace, and then I'll do it again just a bit slower. So let's get into it. And by the way, you can skip this part if you want, but I really encourage you to check out my free training if you're really serious about learning Spanish. If you felt frustrated, maybe even overwhelmed, or you just want the clearest roadmap possible to how it is possible to learn Spanish and become fluent within a year and actually be speaking confidently with native speakers just a couple of months from now. So you learn about my methodology, my 3 strategies, and what you should and shouldn't focus on, the resources to use to practice, and so much more. And if you have any interest in learning Spanish with me, if you like the way that I teach, you also learn more about my full Spanish program, A to Z Spanish University. At the end, you also get a special discount for signing up for that free training. So yeah, click on the link in the description to check out that free training, to sign up for it today. Really encourage you to do it. Whether you're interested in my program or not, you get a ton of value out of it. So I hope to see you there. Now, let's get into the story. So again, I'm going to say it just a normal pace first, and then I'll do it slower. Cuando tenía 17 años, decidí preparar la cena para mi familia. Busqué una receta en internet y compré todos los ingredientes. Todo iba bien hasta que me di cuenta de que había confundido el azúcar con la sal. El postre salió horrible, pero mis padres se rieron y me dijeron que lo importante era la intención. Fuimos a buscar comida rápida y desde entonces cocinar se convirtió en una de mis pasiones. This is not a true story, by the way, but it's got really good vocabulary. So, one more time, just slower. Cuando tenía 17 años, decidí preparar la cena para mi familia. Busqué una receta en internet y compré todos los ingredientes. Todo iba bien hasta que me di cuenta de que había confundido el azúcar con la sal. El postre salió horrible, pero mis padres se rieron y me dijeron que lo importante era la intención. Fuimos a buscar comida rápida y desde entonces cocinar se convirtió en una de mis pasiones. A lot to unpack there. And again, I'm not going to dive too much into, different examples. What I want you to do, what I encourage you to do, is try to take these examples and make different subjects as you could take this and try to make it as if you were talking about your sister who did this, excuse me, or your dad who tried to cook who never cooks, or your best friend. You can talk about, I'm going to cook and I'm going to buy the ingredients. Just try to make different tenses, different subjects for this. That's how you really get fluent in this stuff. Again, learning and becoming fluent in Spanish is not always about how much you know, it's about how well you know the stuff that you do know. So again, when I was 17 years old, when I had 17 years, so imperfect past, I decided to prepare the dinner for my family. That's pretty straightforward, and especially, you've got imperfect, you've got preterite, but at the end of the day, preterite past is going to be I decided to do something, and imperfect would be more I was deciding to do something ongoing. And anytime that you talk about your age, you're just always going to use imperfect in the past. When I was this age, I don't know. There's not really a reason necessarily. It's just that's just the way it is. So you never want to say cuando tuve 17 años. It sounds better to say cuando tenía. It's almost like you're saying when I used to be 17. So I searched for a receta, a recipe on the internet. When you say on the internet, just say en internet, on internet. And I bought all of the ingredients, todos los ingredientes. Now, this is where it kind of starts to get good. So, todo iba bien hasta que me di cuenta de que había confundido el azúcar con la sal. And you might be looking at this phrase like, what in the world is going on? So let's separate this just a bit. Iba was going to. And for different subject it would be ibas for you were going, íbamos for we were going, iban with an n ending for plural, they or you all. So I was going to is I iba. It's also how you say he or she or it was going to. So in this case we're saying it was going well. It was everything, todo, was going well. So technically iba as I was going to, and just iba is I was going, by the way. But todo iba bien. That's a good phrase to just have muscle memory, right? To where you don't have to translate that. Because imagine you could just say, oh, everything was going well until, hasta que, until. So you could say, you could change that around and say, el proyecto iba bien, the project was going well. Or el partido iba bien, the game was going well until this happened. So hasta que, if you're going to say until followed by like a verb, if you're just saying until 11 o'clock, it's just hasta las 11. But the second you want to say until I verbed or until this verb happened, you just add that que. So, me di cuenta de que. Why is that such a long word to say I realized? By the way, this is everything was going well until I realized that I had confused the sugar with the salt. So, the phrase darse cuenta de que means to realize. It is a really dumb format, I know. I promise though you get better at this by repetition and muscle memory. Do not try to make a lot of sense of this. Do not try to translate all of this word for word when you're using it. It does mean to give oneself, because it's a reflexive verb. To give is dar. To give oneself is darse. Account of that. So I gave myself account of that I had confused the sugar with the salt. That's what it means. But it means I realized, right? So me di cuenta, I realized. Te diste cuenta. Notice how you're saying it's like you gave yourself account of something. Se dio cuenta, he or she realized. Nos dimos cuenta, we realized. Se dieron cuenta for plural. If you are using vosotros form, os disteis cuenta, right? Now, so me di cuenta de que. All of that to say I realized. Now, when we're saying había, what we're doing is we're using haber, which means to have done something. And when you say había, let me put my keyboard in Spanish. Había, habías, habíamos. I guess había for él or ella. You've got habían for ellos or ustedes. This means had, and then I'll put in parentheses done something. So any verb that you follow with había needs to be in the past participle form. The way that you form a verb in the past participle, if you're not here yet, you're not this advanced, don't freak out with all of this. But the reason I'm kind of explaining this quickly is so that you can at least recognize it, and if you want to practice it, you can, because it's not too hard. It's not too difficult to put a verb in the past participle. If it ends in AR, ado. If it ends in IR or ER, you add ido ending. So in this case, we've got a verb like confundir, which means to confuse. Notice that this verb ends in IR, so it's an IR verb. We add the ido ending. Confundi, and that's where the IR starts. So instead of the IR, we put ido, confundido. So I had, había down here, I had confused, confundido, the sugar with the salt. Now we can kind of get back to the story. Salió horrible. So a cool way of using the verb salir, which means to go out, by the way, is to end up. It's another use of it. So when we use it in this preterite past tense, we're saying the postre, the dessert, ended up or came out is another probably natural way to say that in English. It came out horrible. But my parents laughed, and that's another verb, and that's reflexive. Reflexive verbs are like verbs that we do to ourselves, which is why we add, mete, se, nos. Common ones are when you've probably seen like to wake up or to brush your teeth. Those are all reflexive verbs. And so reírse is another one. So they laughed is se rieron. It's just past preterite. And they told me that lo importante. I feel like that's a good one to kind of go over just a little bit, because if you say lo importante de, it means the important part of, or the important part, or the most important thing. When you add lo in front of different phrases like lo mejor de, it means the best part about, or the best of something. Lo peor de, the worst something. You've got lo importante, the most important, or the important part of something. So if you ever see lo followed by a word like importante or mejor or peor, that's what's going on. So the important, lo importante, was the intention. We went to pick up, buscar comida rápida, fast food. Buscar means to look for. It can also mean to like go out and pick something up and pick up food. So let's say, hey, my Uber Eats driver is picking it up now. You could say, or is going to look for it now. It's lo está buscando ahora. Since then, desde entonces, since then, is just a good phrase to know. To cook, se convirtió, turned into one of my passions. So that verb, convertirse, en, means to, literally it means to convert oneself into, but it means to become. So that was a phrase that kind of tripped me up the first time I saw it. I remember reading this like famous literature story that it was called this, and this is why I think it helped me remember it, because it was kind of a bizarre name. It was El hombre que se convirtió en perro, the man who became a dog, the man that converted himself into a dog. So in the past tense, it means me convertí en. I converted myself into. And the reason that I'm translating that one for word for word is I think it just helps you understand, why is it 3 words to say became, he became, or whatever. And or it could be 4 words. It could be él. Well, not in this case. It means to cook, became. But if it were he became, it would be él se convirtió. But in Spanish, we don't have to use the subject. That's what's happening, though. That's why the N is there. That's why it's easy to remember, like, not to leave out the end part. So it's I converted myself into. Obviously, we don't translate, we interpret, so it means I became. And that, again, it's just something like, hey, se convirtió en, one of my passions. Or if you were to say he became a great man, it would be se convirtió en un gran hombre. I became a better person, me convertí en una mejor persona. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you haven't already, click on the link in the description for my free training on how to become fluent in Spanish within a year. I'll show you how I was able to do it, my methodology, my 3 strategies that you've got to focus on if you want to be able to do the same. It's worked for thousands of students of mine, because you will also hear at the end of that free training, if it's something you're interested in, my full Spanish program, A to Z Spanish University. You hear more about it, and you also get a discount. So I like you hearing the free training first, so that you kind of know what the strategy is, what my methodology is, so that when you get inside the program, if you decide to, again, the free training is free, so you can get the information. The courses that I'm selling is just if it's something you're interested in. But you get a discount on that program if you sign up for the free training. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want more, please let me know in the comments if you like this format, if you want more like this. Gracias por ver este video. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for new videos in the future. And see you in the next one. Ciao.